Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. A nonprofit will honor 8 local veterans today with the second part of Our Fallen Heroes ceremony in Wilmington. The first part of the ritual was held Saturday at the USS North Carolina Battleship Park. A military honor guard gave flags to veterans' families. Today, the organization will put the cremated remains of the veterans in aquatic urns to be placed at sea. The urns will become part of existing ocean reefs and provide a habitat for fish and other marine life. A new place of worship on the way in Leland after a weekend groundbreaking ceremony. The Bridge Presbyterian Church broke ground at its new Landville Road location. The church was launched in 2014 and has been operating in a space at the Village Shops at Waterford. The congregation has significantly grown since it launched and voted to purchase the new property at Landville Road in January, closing on that property in April. The new church will have a larger sanctuary, offices, a childcare area, and outdoor spaces. The Bridge hopes to hold services in the new church by the fall. Hundreds of triathletes pounded the pavement this weekend as Carolina Beach held its annual double sprint triathlon. That triathlon has been a fixture in the community since 1997 and began in Curie Beach as part of the North Carolina Triathlon Series. Around 200 people competed this year. Unlike a traditional triathlon format of run, bike, swim, these athletes had to swim, run, bike, run again, and swim once more before crossing the finish line. Triathletes completed a 750-meter swim, a 5K run, and a 12-mile bike ride. And the state's unemployment rate for April fell further below pre-pandemic levels and could be the lowest since the late 1990s. The state Commerce Department says April's rate is 3.4%, dropping from 3.5% in March. Across the country, the unemployment rates among most racial and ethnic groups remain unchanged, with African and Native Americans experiencing the highest rate, 5%, while Caucasians and Asian Americans face the lowest, 3%. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We are warm and muggy once again here in the Cape Fear as our high temperatures climb into the middle 80s away from the coast, upper 70s to the low 80s along the immediate coastline. And we're going to be dealing with partly cloudy skies throughout the day today, and a better chance for a few showers will make its way into the Cape Fear later this evening. Not expecting anything widespread, but overnight tonight we're holding on to the warm temperatures as we drop down to the upper 60s and the low 70s under mostly cloudy skies. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAY-TV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
We're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
For them, so it's gonna be pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, real radio station. They got in fact, they just won 5 more Murrow Awards last week. It just got announced.
You're not gonna believe this, but I was not paying a bit of attention trying to get this coffee in me. Welcome to the Asylum, ladies and gentlemen, your refuge in a world gone mad. Right here on the Big Talker Network, bigtalker.live. Please visit the website, peruse our content schedule, and if you would, send us an email with any compliments, questions, critiques, questions, or concerns you may have. We cannot improve without your help, and the most exciting part about this Monday is my guest, Mr. Andrew Donaldson. How are you doing, sir?
Other than you just hurt my feelings, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing better than the, well, we have to go to Russia for this one. Because everybody likes a good souvenir, yeah? they come to Wilmington and they go to the beach and they pick up little seashells and sand dollars and hermit crabs. But if you were to go to eastern Ukraine, what would be your souvenir, Andrew?
I don't think I'd be in eastern Ukraine doing souvenir hunting in this particular moment in time. But I think it would be a little bit more of a business type trip of the old life variety. But I don't know. What souvenir should I get in eastern Ukraine?
Maybe a Swedish Panzerkatt 86.
Is that like an ABBA tribute band, or what is that?
It's close. It's a one-hit wonder, definitely. Apparently, a couple of guys deciding to sell souvenirs from the Donbass region. 52-year-old retired Major Viktor Kovtikov. I'm not going to pronounce these correctly. Apparently,
I don't think he's smart enough that we need to worry about getting his name right anyway.
Well, he and his buddy decided it would be fun to pull an unexploded Swedish Panzerkatt 86 from the battlefield, throw it in the back of their car along with a bunch of grenades to bring them back to Russia to sell as souvenirs. And apparently, a little bit of Taco Bell action here, and the whole back end of the car is gone. The two guys are in intensive care. And it all happened about, 30 miles or so northeast of Moscow. So deep in the heart of their own country.
Look, when you put a quarter in the idiot jukebox, bad things happen. But you have to play the song that you selected. That's the rules. So these guys played a stupid game. They got a stupid prize, and I'm very sorry for their injuries, but this is a you problem, dude. Like, you don't, if you're going to have the time, leave one of those just immutable facts of life. Leave unexploded ordnance alone.
That's, so this must be part of the public education, right? I mean, I wasn't necessarily taught in school, don't touch unexploded ordnance.
If you're gonna put the word major in front of your name, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume you probably ought to know better. Although I've known some really stupid majors in my day, but that's another story for another time. Yeah, I am not impressed by these people, and they got what they had coming to them for being a moron.
That's the joy of living in Russia. We have nothing else. We have misery. We have vodka. And unexploded ordnance.
We have no proverbs. We have misery and vodka.
That's it. Now, apparently, this wasn't the only thing. Apparently, there were items similar to Army hand grenade launchers were also found in what was left of the trunk. So I'm guessing these guys were starting their own little backyard party or something, or maybe they were setting up for a gender reveal party.
If you're a wrestling fan, there's a legendary story where the great Terry Funk, God bless him, he's in very ill health now, and some of his boys, they were down in Texas and they had gone to the National Guard Armory and stole a box of grenades. And they were sitting in their backyard lobbing grenades at the shed out in the field, trying to hit the shed with the hand grenades. So that's the first thing that came to my mind when you started talking about that.
Yeah, that's definitely like the advanced version of horseshoes. You only need to get close.
Well, depending on the type of grenade, yeah. But, don't play with unexploded ordnance, especially in a war zone where there's going to be a lot of it laying around. Just don't do that. It doesn't make good. The thing you got to understand too is ordnance like that in a war zone, it's not like it's getting properly handled. So even though it might look okay, it may or may not be stable because you don't know how much it's been jarred around, you don't know how it's been treated, you don't know what's been going on with it. There's some real good legitimate reasons you don't screw around with unexploded ordnance, especially if it's laying somewhere. Because then it's like, okay, this is somewhere it shouldn't be, so I need to be way, way away from this because something bad's going to happen at any minute. Because this thing, if it's laying somewhere, chances are it probably was sent out to go boom and didn't go boom, and it'll go boom if you screw around with it. So just leave it alone. And especially don't pile up a bunch of it in the back of your little car and try to make a run for the border. That's just not going to work out well for you.
And I guess the capitalism in Moscow is still active because apparently these guys were collecting this stuff to sell as souvenirs. So I guess if you're in Russia and you want to buy souvenirs, your choices are kind of limited.
I mean, I don't know how you say dummy in Slavic, but yeah, this is pretty far up there on the stupid scale.
Now, pivoting on stupid and dysfunctional families, you had a bit on Sri Lanka this morning that I missed full comprehension of. Can you unpack a little bit of that for me? Apparently, there's a family affair.
So the prime minister resigned, which he ought to because the country's falling apart at the seams. They actually have run out of their fuel storage. They're almost out of food. They defaulted on their national debt over the weekend. Things are really, really dire. In Sri Lanka, you're talking 22 million people here. It's a mess, and we've been covering it because there's a lot of cross streams here. China owns a lot of that debt, and they're taking over the infrastructure as repayment for that debt. Ooh. India, obviously, because this is off the coast of India. India has a lot of gains on this, so India's kind of paying attention to it. They're trying to get into the infrastructure before China does. America actually holds a lot of the bondholder debt for the war in Ukraine is what really tipped this thing over the edge because fuel prices went up, food shortages came down. They were already right on the edge, if not over it anyway. So there you go. You see why you need to cover this because we're going to see this in other countries going forward. The macro level of that. Well, the people rioted. There were 9 killed, 300 some wounded in rioting over the weekend. The family, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce these folks' name. I'm just telling you up front. The prime minister did finally resign, but then it went to his brother, who's now in charge of it. So there's some nepotism involved. This family has badly mismanaged the country, but you know how these sort of things go. So there's just a whole lot of bad going on for those folks over there, with pretty much zero relief in sight for anybody. So, that's where that's at, and it's ugly, but it's something we need to pay attention to because we're going to see more of that coming up.
Now, how did it fall into like another family member? Like it's the guy's brother, right?
Right, but it's a family that's got power. So you know how these things go. They're going to manipulate the system to keep the family in power, even though they probably don't have any business being in power.
Do you think that's going to survive?
No, it's going to be a disaster. I'm working on trying to get some reporters that have covered that a little more extensively, can explain it better on Heard Tell. Hopefully do that this week or next week. We've reached out to some folks that know this a lot better than I do. I'm covering it from afar, and you know how we like to do things. We like to talk to people and know what they're talking about. So we're trying to get some experts on to really explain it to us, but it's definitely something that's got to be paid attention to.
Yeah.
and President Biden's in Asia right now doing an Asia tour, so it's applicable.
Yeah, that's why we're a little concerned, I guess, would be the takeaway from this. And what else do we have going on? I'm like I said, I have gig hangover, if anybody knows what that is.
No, you're just old.
Yeah, I'm old.
A couple things. We've covered it on the show before. The Southern Baptist Convention, the third-party investigation into the leadership's role in the abuse scandal that's roiling came out yesterday, and it is way worse than anybody thought it was going to be. It's really bad. So we're going to be dealing with that over the there's another one. I've got, reached out to a couple different people I want to get on the show and talk about it. So that'll be coming. How do I put this? We've covered this before. We had one of the very first Heard Tells we did. It was like the 4th or 5th one we ever put out, but it was actually the first one I planned on doing because I wanted to cover it. Was on abuse and sexual abuse and abusers. We covered it with Jennifer Greenberg, who's great. We probably need to get her back on too. And she talked about, abusers use power structures, and they can be a family power structure, a government power structure, a church power structure. That's how abusers operate. They get in these power structures because it gives them cover. I put it this way, writing in Ordinary Times this morning, and I was just blunt about it. It was like, are you familiar with the Hoffer principle? The Hoffer principle is that everything starts as a cause, becomes a business, and then degenerates into a racket. Well, the Southern Baptist Convention leadership, when you read this 300-page report, over 20 pages of it is just on the executive committees not allowing stuff like actual sexual assaults and stuff, like really ugly stuff.
Wow.
They're acting like a bunch of degenerates that's running a racket. That's exactly what they acted like, and it's all right there in the report. And it's ugly, it's upsetting, and no, we're not going to be quiet about it, and this needs to be cleaned out, especially this is the second largest Christian denomination in America after the Catholic Church. This is billions of dollars. This is millions of people. This is a big, big deal. And by the way, this is one of the most politically active denominations in the country. This is very much a power base for the right. So this is stuff that's got to be dealt with, and we're going to deal with it and talk about it. In fact, our friend Dennis Sanders, that's on our program frequently, I'm going to be going on his program today. Should be out in a day or two. We'll link to it to talk about it. This is something I'd rather not talk about, but we got to talk about it because this is not okay. And when people do stuff like that, it's not okay.
Man, yeah. And this is just one of another group, because we've had Catholic Church, we've had Boy Scouts, we've had other inclusive environments that seem to have this sort of perversion to it.
You know what? It's not. There's perversion, of course, to this, but you know what it is? It's just rank, arrogance and power. It's power and money.
Power
there's
corrupts.
A lot of money involved, and there's a lot of power involved. So everything has to be filtered through that to maintain the power and the money. And then you start going down this vortex of, what do you call it? You wind up down this vortex of, and there's great writing by Russell Moore. If you don't know who Russell Moore is, he was one of the big wigs in the Southern Baptist Convention. He left it last year. And 2 letters leaked out that he had wrote them about, like, you've got to do something about the abuse. He didn't leak them, by the way. Somebody else did. And he blatantly, like, naming names, like, you've got to do something about the abuse. And they ran him off for it, basically, and tried to silence him.
Nobody likes a tattletale.
He wrote he didn't leak any of this. He just quietly went. But then it leaked after that this happened that he was trying to stop this. Jennifer Greenberg that I just mentioned, she actually went to a conference that he organized. She was one of the speakers at that conference. And they got really upset at that. They're like, what are you doing? We need to cover this up, not try to fix it. He's got a piece out today in Christianity Today that I encourage everybody to read. It's on my social media. He just unloads on them. Like how immoral this is, how terrible this is, how this is destroying people's lives. And I completely agree with him. So it's ugly stuff, but we got to deal with it. Also, more locally, Gaston County, which is, of course, the other side of the state from Wilmington, but still North Carolina, Huffington Post, Alexander Kaufman, great writer, has a great piece out there trying to build a big lithium mine in Gaston County. It'd be the biggest lithium mine east of the Mississippi and the second largest in America. What's that got to do with anything? Okay, lithium is important for batteries, for all this electric vehicle stuff we're doing, right? Green technology. The problem with green technology is lithium has to be open pit mined. I don't know if you're familiar with open pit mining, but that's about the least ecologically friendly thing you can do. It's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to dig a big old pit in the middle of wherever we got to get this stuff at. Plus, you have to have double whatever your pit size is. You have to have double that size for your overburden. That's all the material you're taking out of the ground. Plus, there's a chemical plant that's got to go with it to process it because it's got to be processed on site because of the way it's transported. And then you have to have these big fields of it laying out where it, I don't know the right terminology, cures or sits or whatever it takes. This is a massive facility. And the people of Gaston County don't want this thing because it's going to be an economical disaster and an ecological disaster. Green energy is a great buzzword, but there's this is the dirty end of it. Alexander wrote a great piece about it, very nuanced, because there's 2 sides to this. Yes, we need this stuff because we're going to have electric vehicles and stuff. We need to have this material here, and China controls almost all the lithium in the world right now, which puts you right back into the problem we have with oil with foreign entanglements. So we need to do it here, but how are we going to do it? Where are we going to do it? This is the sticky end that goes past the buzzwords. Great thing on that. And our guest today is Kat Dwyer, talking about very interesting stuff, how market innovations affect environmentalism. Environmentalists seem to not like the market. Market seems to not like environmentalists. We kind of flip that around like, hey, here's some instances where the market's really innovating. And you listen to this with interest because you're from out west. There's stuff going on out west with water shortages. How do we fix that? There's stuff out west about land usage, very old debates out west.
Yeah, that's not new.
No.
When I was a kid, we had limitations on how large the lawn could be.
They were talking about how bad Lake Mead was when I lived in Vegas 12 years ago. I was 12 years ago. They were talking about it being a crisis, and it's even worse now. SoCal is draining the west and southwest dry, and they don't like it. People in Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, they're not real thrilled about this.
Water rights
Colorado.
wars.
Water rights wars are. We just had a Supreme Court case last term between two states with water rights issues. So this is a big deal. It's an ongoing thing. It's just one of those things, but it's topical. Kat Dwyer, great guest, and really cool thing. I know you're not the biggest soccer fan. I am a soccer fan. The English Premier League, the most popular sports league in the world, crowned their champion yesterday. Manchester City won. It was a great game, but they chose two fans to be part of the trophy presentation. One of them actually carried the trophy out to the podium, and another fan put the medals around the necks of the players, right?
Yeah.
The fan that carried the stories behind them we cover in our last segment is our feel good segment. You need to know who these people are. It's so cool. This woman named Olivia carried the trophy out. She's 22 years old. She works in their public relations. She goes out and does the charity work that the team does, that kind of stuff. She's 22 years old and fighting cancer. So great story there. The young man, Ben Mason, that handed out the medals, actually put the medals around the necks of the players. His sister committed suicide back in the spring, and he's raising suicide awareness. He's only 16 years old. You should have seen this kid up there, like biggest stage in the world, grinning like a kid getting his first lollipop. But he's raising awareness because his sister committed suicide and mental health stuff. Just two really cool stories, well done by Manchester City, highlighting those two people amongst their celebration. It was a great game. They came from behind and won when it looked like they were dead in the water, and all of a sudden they scored 3 goals in 5 minutes, which is pretty spectacular at that level.
Yeah.
But really, really good on them for highlighting those two people amongst their celebration. I thought that was really well done. So great episode of Heard Tell today. I hope everybody checks it out. And we've got some really cool guests coming this week. Going to talk education. That one's already in the hopper. We're reaching out. Australia had elections. Australia overthrew the conservative government they've had for, I think, about 12 years now. They had elections down in Australia. We're going to have some folks come in and talk about that. Obviously, Russia and Ukraine's going on. Biden's going on. He's over in Asia. We got the baby formula thing. A lot going on in the world. We're going to keep covering it, my friend.
Yeah, apparently there's a cottage industry of nursing women that are starting to sell their breast milk. I thought that was a little outside the FDA.
That's kind of iffy. Let's not do that.
That's a Monday morning right there. So when you have that much going on, you have 4 days, 5 days before the weekend to resolve it all within your consciousness so that you can face the weekend and still have a great time. Which is why most of us go on vacation or go to the beach, or in the case of last night, they go see the Walt Metz Memorial at Ogden Tap Room, or at Villanova at 7 Mile where I was. A lot of music happening in this area, and it got really loud and really fun, and that's why I'm deaf and exhausted.
Oh, you always make me do these inane stories when there's important things going on in the world. So I got one for you to close our segment out before you go do real work here.
You're gonna top the blowing up the car?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Did you know the Queen of England bans garlic from the palace? Not she doesn't eat it. It's not allowed on the premise.
Vampires.
That's first thing I thought. But it also explains why her family's so supremely screwed up, because they're not eating garlic, which has all kinds of health benefits to you. Legitimate. I'm not being
right.
snarky
It's
here.
good stuff.
Garlic legitimately has like amazing properties to it. It's like everything, moderation. But they do not allow garlic on the premise. Like, not just she doesn't eat it. It's not allowed in the building.
Has it been this way for a while, like just her reign, or throughout history?
I have not delved into it too far, but this answers a lot of lingering questions I have about how screwed up that family is. Between the centuries of inbreeding and that, I think we have our answer, folks.
Now, did they explain why?
She hates it. I guess, I don't know, the smell, the taste, whatever. She just hates garlic.
That's
In fact,
weird.
our friend Ben that's been on the program before, he's over in London. He hates garlic as well. We might have to get him on the program and make him stand and answer for his mom.
Now, my thing is, though, like, she's one. How many people live in that palace?
Ben Harris, if you're listening, explain your queen.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, she's one person.
Oh, it's hundreds of, just the staff alone is hundreds of people.
Right. Man, everybody else,
I mean, the royal family's like 40 or 50 people, and they all
so
have
even the staff
of their
people
own.
are being deprived of the medical benefits.
See, that's what I thought. I was like, well, she just doesn't want to eat it. And they're like, no, it's banned from it's not even allowed in the building. I'm like, what? Anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting.
Yeah, that's not good for your people, man. I mean, but it lets you know that, if a vampire needs a safe place to be, we found it. I think they still do exorcisms in England, don't they? Or is that even related anymore? I get all the books confused in my head. That could be it.
I don't know.
But yeah, having a limited diet, I mean, it's like, that tells me right there, there's like no Italian food in their entire diet. Because how can you make a decent, what do they call that, Italian water? How can you make that Italian gravy without garlic? I don't think you can.
I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting.
It is.
Friend.
I'm stunned.
You're always talking about my guests. You've actually got a pretty good guest list today, my friend.
I have the chairman of the GOP, Mr. Bill Moore, in the wings. And later today
talked to Bill Moore. He's an interesting dude.
Oh, he is quite the card, I think is the word that they used in our generation.
I got him on the Monday after the Ted Budd at the GOP convention thing went down. He was all kinds of fired up. But it's interesting going from that. You need to ask him about that. Like he was one of those that's like, hey, Trump should not have done that. Not so much the endorsement, but the way he did it. Now that Ted Budd has won that election very handily, blew everybody away. It's interesting to see what he thinks about it now. I'm sure you can ask him about that. That'll be fun.
That does sound like a good subject to have with him. And the other guest I have is Dr. Thomas Dalton of the Eden Village Project. I've been very excited to get some of these people on the line. Been exploring the homeless issue in Wilmington for a minute, and discovered some solutions around the country and thought, hey, these would be some good people to talk to. So they're going to be on at 9, and I'm very excited about it.
Talking to Kat Dwyer about water this morning, we shouted out your continuing segments on the Cape Fear, and we actually I brought that up in the conversation, so you can listen to that as well.
Well, thank you. Yes, I was the water relationship here and where I come from are 180 degrees out of phase.
Yeah, but the core issues are pretty similar. That's
the
amazing thing about this.
Literally the other side of the coin.
You have a great program. Appreciate your time. You folks check out Heard Tell. Twice on Sunday was great yesterday. If anybody missed that, boy, was that a big old information thing. We'll talk soon, my friend.
I will see you probably tomorrow, man. Have a fantastic day, and we will chat soon.
All right. Thanks, TK. Bye.
And ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these messages with our friend Mr. Bill Moore, chairperson of the Brunswick County GOP. So please, right here on the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. A nonprofit will honor 8 local veterans today with the second part of Our Fallen Heroes ceremony in Wilmington. The first part of the ritual was held Saturday at the USS North Carolina Battleship Park. A military honor guard gave flags to veterans' families. Today, the organization will put the cremated remains of the veterans in aquatic urns to be placed at sea. The urns will become part of existing ocean reefs and provide a habitat for fish and other marine life. A new place of worship on the way in Leland after a weekend groundbreaking ceremony. The Bridge Presbyterian Church broke ground at its new Lanville Road location. The church was launched in 2014 and has been operating in a space at the Village Shops at Waterford. The congregation has significantly grown since it launched and voted to purchase the new property at Lanville Road in January, closing on that property in April. The new church will have a larger sanctuary, offices, a child care area, and outdoor spaces. The Bridge hopes to hold services in the new church by the fall. Hundreds of triathletes pounded the pavement this weekend as Carolina Beach held its annual double sprint triathlon. That triathlon has been a fixture in the community since 1997 and began in Curie Beach as part of the North Carolina Triathlon Series. Around 200 people competed this year. Unlike a traditional triathlon format of run, bike, swim, these athletes had to swim, run, bike, run again, and swim once more before crossing the finish line. Triathletes completed a 750-meter swim, a 5K run, and a 12-mile bike ride. And the state's unemployment rate for April fell further below pre-pandemic levels and could be the lowest since the late 1990s. The State Commerce Department says April's rate is 3.4%, dropping from 3.5% in March. Across the country, the unemployment rates among most racial and ethnic groups remain unchanged, with African and Native Americans experiencing the highest rate, 5%, while Caucasians and Asian Americans face the lowest, 3%. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We are warm and muggy once again here in the Cape Fear as our high temperatures climb into the middle 80s away from the coast, upper 70s to the low 80s along the immediate coastline, and we're going to be dealing with partly cloudy skies throughout the day today, and a better chance for a few showers will make its way into the Cape Fear later this evening. Not expecting anything widespread, but overnight tonight we're holding on to the warm temperatures as we drop down to the upper 60s and the low 70s under mostly cloudy skies. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Well, I never felt more like singing the blues, 'cause I never thought that I'd ever lose your love here. Why'd you do me this way?
MusicRewind.com presents the Nashville Hitmakers, a collection of 60 songs that helped inspire the Nashville sound movement in the 1950s.
She thinks I still care. Billy, Billy, Bio, watch where you go.
Order the Nashville Hitmakers at MusicRewind.com or call 855-798-5556 today and pay only $19.98. Plus, get reduced shipping. Just enter or mention promo code HITS55. Go to MusicRewind.com or call 855-798-5556. Remember HITS55 to save on shipping. This offer is available for a limited time to U.S. residents only and cannot be combined with any other offer.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Stand by.
Me too.
Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad on this bright and beautiful Monday morning. Oh man, it's dance, it's energy, it's all kinds of cool things. In fact, it is so cool. We have the chairperson of the Brunswick County GOP with us, Mr. Bill Moore. How are you doing, sir, after this election letdown? We talked to you Thursday, but I'm sure things have happened since then.
Yeah, I'm doing fine, thank you. Just got back from a state convention in Greensboro that ran from Thursday through Sunday. So it was a great time. We got a lot accomplished. A lot of recharging people's batteries and getting ready for November.
And a lot of blue shirts wandering around passing out progressive literature.
No. They were taking it into the gift and made them red.
Now, some of the guests were there. Was Ted Budd, our friend Ted Budd, there?
Yes, anybody who was who won in the primary was there and actually spoke to the group at one time or another. Ted was there and he did a great job.
Now, what do you feel about Ted's unusual or unconventional, depending on your view, campaign? The words are leaving me this morning. Because it was an unnatural, it was an unconventional campaign, wasn't it? Like, he didn't really do a lot of advertising. He didn't do a lot of normal stuff.
No, he did something that he did the old school way, which is basically what our Lieutenant Governor, who just defeated Dan Forrest, did when he was successful in his 2 runs for Lieutenant Governor. Ted Budd spent his time on the road and did multiple visits to each of the 100 counties we have. So he met the people and talked to the people rather than just put out commercials, ads, and statements here and there. So he did it the old-fashioned way, in my opinion, the way it should be.
You're just being coy. It's because he came on to the Asylum that he was elected in such a landslide. That if it wasn't for the massive force that is the Asylum listenership, Ted Budd would still be campaigning.
That could really go away from you. You know, and if you consider that I heard your previous guest and how we talked about when Ted was endorsed by Trump at the last convention, the last major convention.
Right.
And you know, and rightly so, he was right that everybody, including myself, was upset by what happened, not because of Ted Budd, but because your parties cannot endorse in primaries. So, you know, and good, Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And when he tells you something, you know, everybody listens, but it didn't make it right. It just made it was real. So, and I was never upset with Ted Budd about it. It wasn't his decision or fault that Donald Trump decided to call him up and endorse him. So it was just a play by President Trump, and
a little awkward.
It was awkward for a lot of people, and the parties at every level had to go out and make sure our membership knew that that was not a party endorsement, and the primaries would remain wide open. And you know, we had 14 candidates running for his.
I mean, that's a full field, 14. Holy
it
mackerel.
Was, and they it boiled down to the top 4, but he pulled it out handily, you know, and he did very, very well. So we're pleased. I think he's going to be a good candidate. It's interesting because if you look at our numbers, you know, it was a lot of people pulled a lot of votes, and he got over his 30%, but you know, didn't blow it away. On the other side of the coin, on the Democratic side, they had 11 candidates, but as I was looking at the numbers coming in, it was obviously that basically the 10 of them dropped out and told their people to vote for Sherry Beasley to be their candidate because the numbers were just so swayed. It wasn't even close.
Wow.
So and you know, and
when you only have 30 people in that party voting, and there's 11 people to vote for, it's got to be hard to.
Yeah, but don't forget they get to vote often and you know, often. So you know.
Now,
so they vote early often, so it's not a problem. 30 could be 300. I'm sorry, Democratic Party, but it had to be said. It was fine.
Now, there were some surprises. Apparently, the kid that was on the reality show, Aiken, how'd that go? What happened to him?
You don't mean Madison Cawthorn?
No. The Clay Aiken guy. I can't remember what party he was with.
I don't honestly know an answer to that one. I'm not gonna take something on I don't know.
Okay, but, that's fair.
And I'm not gonna make a swag, which we call a scientific wild ass guess. So.
Well, were there any surprises?
Yeah, some of them were really interesting. I'm going to share you a piece of knowledge that I picked up at one of the meetings out of Brunswick County, and specifically the city of Ash area. I don't know if anybody, I did not know it, and most of the people at the table I was sitting at did not know it. But the county of Ash had a major play in building the Panama Canal.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and remember, that was built in 1914, actually opened in 1914. But what happened was, when the French were building it, they kept digging the hole, and the sides with the mud kept coming down and refilling the hole, which is why they couldn't get it done. And somebody figured out on our side that if you put wood there and support the sides of the building or the canal, it's not going to collapse on you. And so they did, and all the wood for that came out of our area, Ash.
Wow.
So that's something I had no knowledge of till literally this weekend. And and in Ash they put in there was a depot arranged to transport the lumber back and down and over. So Ash had a major part of supplying what was needed to make the Panama Canal function.
Man, North Carolina is worldwide. That is special, because I had no idea.
Neither did I till I was talking to a judge, literally a good friend of mine, and we were talking about North Carolina, and Ash came up, and he shared that tidbit with us, and he's an historian too. And it was fascinating. So, I did a little research on it. Canal opened in 1914 in August. It's 82 kilometers, or roughly 51 miles long. And it was redone again in 2016 and reopened again when they made a better one. But if you think about it, they dug a 51-mile ditch, and they had to support the sides with lumber so that it wouldn't collapse in on itself. So that was a major undertaking. And again, you're talking about 1914 when it opened, so we didn't have the materials or the equipment we have today.
And that, personally, I think that every North Carolinian should be given at least a discount to travel the Panama Canal.
Yes, as long as they get off their ash.
Ooh, nice.
You set that one up. I couldn't.
Oh, that was a lob. That was definitely a lob that just got smashed Federer style. So who do you have? We have a show tomorrow at the Brunswick County GOP in Bolivia, North Carolina. And what you got lined up for us tomorrow?
We're going to have a talk between the three of us. And one of the things we did this weekend is we've approved and made any modifications necessary to the party platform for this coming election. So we're going to talk a little bit about the platform that was passed, and I'll just read you the headings of the areas. So the first article is about family and all the things that go with family. The next article talks about the economy. The third article is on individual liberty. We have the sanctity of life is another one. Article on state government, on elections themselves, and keeping elections. As we say, we want everyone to vote, but we want to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And then we have one on education, and then we have one on justice. And those are the 8 pieces of our platform, and every one of them has multiple pieces to it, addressing what we feel are the needs for the state and the country.
And I think the common thread, it almost sounded like a riddle challenge there. I think the common thread to every one of those topics is money.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's we need to look into. We also passed 3 resolutions from the floor. One was on parliamentary stuff. One was on supporting school choice and rejecting the CRT program. So, and also they passed Keep the 9 amendment, which is an amendment going around the country to put past something so that you can't put extra members on the Supreme Court. Keep it at 9, because there is some thought.
Well, it has to be an odd number so that it can't be a split court, correct?
Right.
Now,
And,
why not 51? One from every state, and then your pivot guy would be the D.C. judge. So that way you have 51 judges, one from every state, whether it's red or blue, purple, green, whatever, and then your tiebreaker. I mean, as long as we're keeping it odd, and as long as we just keep stacking the court with everybody that everybody loves, then, a party of 51 should be, that's 204 clerks, right?
Oh, and not to mention offices and all the things that go with it. It's just unwieldy, and we both know it. God help us. 50. It's bad enough. But besides, the court is not there supposedly to react to the people's will. It's there to interpret the Constitution and make sure the laws that are passed are not in violation of the Constitution itself. And it's not always a popular decision. There's Roe versus Wade, for example, which is blowing up all over the place, unfortunately. People are misinterpreting what it says. And if you study what it says, it doesn't ban abortions. It simply says that that's an issue for the states, and the federal government shouldn't be involved in it. And that's all it says. And to prove it, if it was in fact banning abortions, you wouldn't have places like California, New York, and Chicago announcing they put extra money in so people can come to their states and get their abortions. They're going to be abortion havens. So obviously, the ruling will not ban abortions. It just simply states it's not appropriate for the federal government to be dealing with. It's a states' rights issue.
Do you think that'll gain momentum and follow along with several other issues that seem to be, for example, recreational marijuana in some states and others, but the federal government is saying that it's illegal, but they haven't relented or opined, I guess would be the term, that the state should determine those laws independent of the federal government. Do you see that a parallel or not?
it's a possibility. I think sooner or later the Supreme Court's going to have to rule on the fact that some states say yes and some states say no, and the government is saying no, and therefore you've got a conflict there, and they're going to have to make a final call on it. And I would assume, based on what we're seeing now, that they would come back and say, marijuana control is something a state should decide, and it should not be the power of the federal government. So I would assume that's the way it's going to go. But again, if I knew everything, I would pick 6 lotto numbers, and I would call you from my yacht.
And you wouldn't be at the GOP in Bolivia. You'd be at the GOP at, like, Washington.
No, I would buy the GOP, and I'd buy the Democratic Party and do things my way. And I'd also buy you the biggest station in the world to send the Asylum out to the world.
I just have to draw the line that I don't need a gold toilet.
Okay, I'll get. How about a gold outhouse?
Well, the whole building. I mean, after what I saw of the Kremlin, what is that major meeting palace where they had that silly security meeting for punts, whatever his name is. That room was the most gaudy looking place that it's like, yeah, just I'm good with sticks and drywall, man. I don't need that gilding was just nauseating.
Yeah, I couldn't live in one of those. Some of those palaces around the country, or in our country too. There's one in Florida that was copied. There's a building that was copied after the Palace of Versailles, and I got to tell you, I just walking in there makes me uncomfortable. And I could never clean all these windows, so it's one of those issues that we kind of stay away.
Well, with that kind of money, you hire people to clean the windows.
That's true.
And then you charge them for the gas to get there, and then you charge them insurance on the health that they have to get there, and you just keep charging them to the point that whatever money you paid them, you get back. It's sort of like they're leasing the job or something. It's really cool.
You know something? You just click something with medical in my mind.
Oh yeah.
I think people are aware of this, but our state treasurer Dale Fulwell, who happens to be a Republican, who's been there now for a couple terms, is in a major battle with the health industry. And basically what he's trying to get done is he just wants transparencies in billing. He wants, when you get a bill, for them to itemize what you're charging and not just send you a bill for $30,000. What is that $30,000 made up of? And the insurance, the medical groups in the state are fighting him tooth and nail. They don't want to do that.
Well, no, because disclosure leads to, discovery of corruption and deception and overcharging and oh my god.
Competition.
Oh, what would happen if there was a different or a secondary healthcare system in the area? Like if we weren't forced to go to Novant, if there was another option.
Well, we have certain places, and my wife just had a test the other day, and we haven't seen the bills yet, but we could get scheduled to a private organization in the county. We went there quickly, and from what I understand, they will be cheaper than the hospital. So, I mean, that's important.
That's unusual.
That prices will come down. I mean, in New York, for example, I've saw bills that one of my kids had, that an aspirin was $10. So, I mean, that's a pretty good markup.
Yeah. I mean, breweries don't do that well.
And but we need to be looking at that, and part of that problem is what they call the problem of certificate of need. I'm not sure you're aware of that.
Not heard of this.
Okay, in North Carolina and in other states, to build a new facility, to expand your facility.
Oh, okay. It's on the building side.
And the state has to give you permission to do that, calling a certificate of need. And you have to be able to prove to them that this is needed there. And what you're doing is stifling competition, because the hospital is going to come in and say, look, we can do that. You don't need to do that. We already have those facilities. And these people that could come in and do things cheaper, and whether it's better or not to be determined, but at least cheaper with qualified people to do it, are being shut down. And even hospitals that want to expand can't without permission. And in fact, that was one of the problems that we ended up with the pandemic, because they've controlled the number of beds statewide. And all of a sudden we had a problem and we couldn't get enough beds. Yet they've been stopping expansions here, there, and everywhere for years.
But they'll put 5 different drugstores on the same intersection, but we can't have more than one healthcare provider. I'm guessing.
That's the.
Yeah, there's got to be money at the heart of this problem.
Well, sure it is, because the hospitals are a big lobby group. They make, probably next to government, I would guess, in this country, in this state, they're probably the next, or if not the largest provider of jobs and whatever else within the state. And I think government might be the only one that rivals them. But if they control how many beds there are, they can control the pricing. They can decide when you're doing things. They can decide. They don't tell you what they're billing you on. You have no idea what you're paying for. Just that you got this massive bill, and they're in control, and they have the legislative blocking, if you will, or power to send their people in there to fight them and to stop it from being passed.
So there's no real, man, I just lost it. There's no incentive. This is not something that would normally happen in the open market.
No, there's no incentive for a hospital to be efficient at all, because they can just simply raise their prices and no one knows a thing about it, and they do it. I mean,
it's almost like government junior.
And pay the county of North Carolina $1.25 billion to buy over Hanover Regional if they weren't going to make some money out of it.
And where do we know where that money went? That's been a question I've been asked by a number of people. Who's stewarding that money and where's it going? What's it doing?
Well, first of all, when the money came in, it was agreed, and I believe it's in writing, that they could only spend the interest on the money, which is tens of millions of dollars annually. They couldn't touch the principal. The county of New Hanover County, then the commissioners, they appointed a team to oversight the money and decide where it's going to go. So they pick the board of directors, if you want, for better term, to handle the interest coming in and where the money goes on an annual basis. So it's not even in their hands. It's in this appointed bureaucracy sitting there. And what's interesting also on the other side of that, I know that, for example, Brunswick and probably Pender and other counties, a good percentage of their people that go to their hospitals are coming from our county. Yet all that money went strictly to New Hanover County, though, because it was, quote, a regional hospital. All the money went strictly there, and none of the surrounding counties, who provide, my guess to be maybe 20 plus or minus percentage of their patients, saw a dime, or is going to see a dime of that money for their own use.
And is there a major medical facility in Brunswick County?
It's called Novant Health. They bought it.
Oh.
Novant Health was first.
But they bought it from who?
Novant Health was in Brunswick years before they bought out.
Oh, okay. So they're expanding their operations, but separating the two, so y'all are still left with the second-tier healthcare. And New Hanover has the A-tier, top-tier healthcare.
Well, they have at this point, they're a larger operation, and legally so, because there's just so many more people in New Hanover than the rest of us. And, but
major trauma would require somebody to be transported from Brunswick County, wherever they are, into New Hanover for treatment.
Yeah, and some of it is done by chopper, because, I'm not sure you're aware, but for example, if you have a heart attack, there's a drug called Timmy, and I don't know what exactly, it's the address is TIMN. And if you administer that drug within the 4 hours of the person having the heart attack, the chances of side effects like strokes are minimized. So driving is not a good idea. That's when you have chopper flights that come in, and it will take you to the site that can administer that. And New Hanover County is a site that can do that. And I don't think Brunswick has that capability, but I'm not 100% on that. And I know some of the other counties around us don't have it either.
But now that Brunswick County is the fastest growing county in North Carolina right now, isn't it?
There's been some argument with, I think it's Robeson, or someone's trying to say that we're number one. So we're either one or two, depending who you want to listen to.
But you're definitely growing fast enough that soon there's going to be a golden Novant Hospital Palace in Brunswick County before long.
Yeah, and there is actually a small independent hospital called Doser Hospital in Southport.
And is that they remain independent?
They are independent now. Now, whether they're going to ever be bought out or not, or swallowed up by Novant, I can't tell you. I can't predict that. But they're a good little hospital down there, and they do a lot of things. But again, some of the major stuff at trauma levels has to be evacuated to a trauma center place. And sometimes they go to New Hanover. Sometimes they can't even handle it. They actually take them up to Raleigh on a stat flight.
Oh man, and that's a lot of extra costs associated that is not even considered health care, right? That's just getting you there, but that's still part of the expense, I guess.
That's just there, and you're literally, that stat flight can literally cost you millions, not but $10,000 or more to have that helicopter fly. Wow! Don't forget, you have a specially built chopper with all the medical.
It's a flying ambulance.
Basically, and you also have a nurse and or flight crew there, in addition to the pilots that are taking care of you. So it's expensive.
And it'd be a lot cheaper if you could just hop in a cab and head to the nearest hospital in Brunswick County. So we'll have to see how that conversation goes.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, like I said, if it's, for example, with a certain drug or a certain capability beyond the local hospital, you've got to go to a regional center or maybe even to Raleigh. So that's why choppers are so important.
Man. Whew. Well, I look forward to the show tomorrow morning, and I appreciate your time this morning. It's been quite informational, certainly since the convention over the weekend. I'm glad you made it home.
And we had a great time. I mean, we charged up a lot. Every county went home charged up, ready to kick in for November, and elect a Republican slate across the state and keep us growing in the right direction. So the magic number is still 321 in the state. 3 more people in the House, 2 more people in the state Senate, and at least 1 judge turns everything around in the state.
And that's why we have you on here, to let us know, because I'd forgotten 321. I thought it was like the what was that mulligan stew? You had to use like 3 grains and 2 proteins and an egg or something like that. I don't know.
Countdown for a missile launching. Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, I will see you tomorrow evening in Bolivia. I look
looking
forward to that. And we will see you guys then. Thanks again for your time this morning.
Bye-bye.
And we will see you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these messages with a very special guest, Dr. Dalton. And a special guest, I believe, is related to him in some way. We'll find out when we come back after these messages. So please, ladies and gentlemen. I got to hit the right buttons for this to work. It's amazing how that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, will be right back after these messages. Please don't go nowhere.
Keeping Leland informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750. And the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
No lie, I'm with K.O. Davis from Coast to Coast Tree Service, and we're getting coffee on the way to a tree job. Overheard some guy talking.
Man, ain't no jobs, ain't nobody hiring.
We look over, he's a big old boy, tattoos up both arms. K.O. ain't afraid to speak up. He's like, hey man, I got plenty of tree work, $17.50 an hour right now. Guy was like,
no man, I ain't looking that kind of work.
Then the coffee girl goes,
I have a skinny mocha half-calf latte for Bear.
KO's Coast to Coast Tree Service is paying top dollar for working men. Call 233-2816 and visit KOTrees.com.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. A nonprofit will honor 8 local veterans today with the second part of Our Fallen Heroes ceremony in Wilmington. The first part of the ritual was held Saturday at the USS North Carolina Battleship Park. A military honor guard gave flags to veterans' families. Today, the organization will put the cremated remains of the veterans in aquatic urns to be placed at sea. The urns will become part of existing ocean reefs and provide a habitat for fish and other marine life. A new place of worship on the way in Leland after a weekend groundbreaking ceremony. The Bridge Presbyterian Church broke ground at its new Lanville Road location. The church was launched in 2014 and has been operating in a space at the Village Shops at Waterford. The congregation has significantly grown since it launched and voted to purchase the new property at Lanville Road in January, closing on that property in April. The new church will have a larger sanctuary, offices, a childcare area, and outdoor spaces. The Bridge hopes to hold services in the new church by the fall. Hundreds of triathletes pounded the pavement this weekend as Carolina Beach held its annual double sprint triathlon. That triathlon has been a fixture in the community since 1997 and began in Curie Beach as part of the North Carolina Triathlon Series. Around 200 people competed this year. Unlike a traditional triathlon format of run, bike, swim, these athletes had to swim, run, bike, run again, and swim once more before crossing the finish line. Triathletes completed a 750-meter swim, a 5K run, and a 12-mile bike ride. And the state's unemployment rate for April fell further below pre-pandemic levels and could be the lowest since the late 1990s. The State Commerce Department says April's rate is 3.4%, dropping from 3.5% in March. Across the country, the unemployment rates among most racial and ethnic groups remain unchanged, with African and Native Americans experiencing the highest rate, 5%, while Caucasians and Asian Americans face the lowest, 3%. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We are warm and muggy once again here in the Cape Fear as our high temperatures climb into the middle 80s away from the coast, upper 70s to the low 80s along the immediate coastline, and we're going to be dealing with partly cloudy skies throughout the day today, and a better chance for a few showers will make its way into the Cape Fear later this evening. Not expecting anything widespread, but overnight tonight we're holding on to the warm temperatures as we drop down to the upper 60s and the low 70s under mostly cloudy skies. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Listen to Tom Goolsby on The Chad Adams Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit our website, bigtalker.live. That way you can see the content, peruse our schedule, email us any comments, questions, concerns, compliments, or critiques you may have. And that's the only way we get better as a radio station is with your involvement. And one of those right now is probably the most exciting pair of guests I've had in a minute, Dr. Thomas Dalton and his wife of Eden Village. Welcome.
Hey, TK, good morning.
So the Eden Village, morning. I have one name up here. I'm horrible at the copies. Just now tickling the cranium. A couple of medical professionals. We have a nurse and an anesthesiologist, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And you guys are the founding and impetus energy behind Eden Village.
That's right. So I've been an anesthesiologist in town here 26 years. Kim's a nurse. She started a nursing program at one of the local high schools. And so for us, this whole passionate effort of housing folks is primarily about offering better health care for people.
Now, I'm going to guess that a lot of our listeners are not as familiar with this wonderful new condominium or bungalow, what do they call these? This vacation property that you guys are working on. I'm kidding. So this is a solution to a problem that many people don't want to acknowledge. Let us know a little bit about what Eden Village is and how it got started.
Yeah, I think this is a local solution, grassroots deal, and it's based on a group out of Springfield, Missouri that has now 3 of these villages. It actually sprung from a giant tiny home community in Texas called Community First. That's 178 acres of tiny homes.
178 acres? Dude, that's like bigger than the Superdome.
Yeah, 2,900 homes. That's eventually where they're going to go with it.
Do they have their own zip code?
They are going to have their own city eventually.
Oh,
but hey, listen, the Tito's people have helped fund that whole thing. But at the end of the day, it's an amazing place where they have a whole series of different types of tiny homes. So you can go there and see everything from a tent-based home, an RV home, to what we are building, and we're building 31 tiny homes in a gated, secured community. So it's a pedestrian-only neighborhood. Only a fingerprint access gate gets you in and out. So that basically builds this sense of community and safety. And so each of our homes are 405 square feet. They're nice, TK. They are, we say all the time that dignity is a solution to poverty. And so you walk in this house, it's 15 feet wide, 35 feet long. It's got a full kitchen, full bath, shower. It's for a single adult only. And when you walk in there, and I have just done it with thousands of people now, when you walk in there, you will say, hey, I'd have to get rid of some stuff, but I could live here. And this tiny home movement that's come across the whole nation, it's just a great way to be fiscally responsible and move the needle on this very challenging thing called homelessness.
Now, in some of these cases, it seems like you have not only a group of people in a gated community, which a lot of rich white people would enjoy, you have some on-site care. You have some like direct mental health and physical health and other resources available on site, yes?
Yeah, so one of the really important things is our partnerships. And we're sitting right next door to a future Salvation Army development. So that hopefully will get going soon. They've been talking about it a long time. But I think they are committed to building a $13 million facility right next door to us that has a job training center, a dining facility, a church, and a place for families to seek kind of short-term refuge. But so that is a big partner. On site, we also will have a 3,200 square foot community center. That's really our last piece of the puzzle that we're seeking funding for. So, hey, listeners out there, if you want to help us build a community center, go to our website, EdenVillageWilmington.org, hit the donate button, and we will get the funds together to build this facility. We are permitted. They're laying the foundation. It's about a 6-month build, but we need the final funding for that to do this without any debt. So we're looking for corporate partners, whoever will step in and fill that gap. That's the last piece of the funding puzzle. But in that place, there will be a small little medical clinic. We'll have office space for outside social workers, substance abuse counselors, case management. There's an incredible group called the Pink Ladies that are raising funds right now for our kitchen. And we'll have a commercial-sized kitchen that allows dining for 50 folks. So we'll have communal meals in that community center, mainly toward the end of the month when folks have run out of their funding. So anyway, that's kind of the whole the base area of the community is that community center.
And one of the unique properties about the Eden Village build is that some of these are 3D printed.
Well, we're talking about our next village.
Oh, okay.
So we've signed a deal with a group called Apis Core out of Florida. We went and we've looked at several of these companies. There are 12 companies that build 3D printed houses. But our engineer friends have just become convinced that the future of construction is really in 3D printing. And so we're one of 3 projects, and we're sitting down to try to identify the right spot to do this. But we will put in our next village will be 30 3D printed houses. That's our plan. That happens several years down the road. We're a couple of years in on thinking through things for Eden Village 1 right now. Yeah, I think it's important also, TK, to think about some of the numbers locally. Everybody's kind of like, oh, homelessness is such a
It's a gauntlet. When you walk down 3rd Street in front of the public library, it's a gauntlet.
It is an overwhelming thing, but it again, when you take the local issues of that, we just believe that it is a setup of you need a home, not just a home, but a home that's based in a community. So we can't just put these people up in different apartments around town. You really need just a small living environment that's safe, that has a sense of community around it. So Lakeside Reserve by Good Shepherd is an example of this that is working here in Wilmington. So the tiny home community is just kind of another natural outgrowth of that. But the future of the building process, we think we can drop the costs with 3D printed houses. It's amazing technology. It is the future, and we're looking at it for our next village.
Now, with these homes now, so the idea was that, or the idea is that you can get chronically homeless people into a home where they can actually take a shower and arrive at a job interview without a shopping cart full of all their stuff, which really doesn't help. It's, the optics for that is just not good, right? What is the is that the end goal, is to get them into a home, or do you have like a transition into permanent housing? Is there a
Yeah, I think that's great. So in Missouri, they have a 95% success rate year in, year out, people living. So it is a very successful program. When we looked around, we were originally from Springfield, Missouri. When we stumbled across Eden Village, we went and visited there. We just fell in love with the folks. Their founder had a brother out here in Wilmington. Actually, the land that Eden Village is built on in Springfield, Missouri, is the land where Kim's parents lived. And so she played under the tree that is right there sitting outside the front of Eden Village's headquarters in Springfield, Missouri. So there's a lot of cool ties with us and them. But I think it's important, TK, to understand the numbers behind this. So if you take all of homelessness, in the United States, that's about 0.2% of the population on a given night. Let's call it 600,000 people.
Okay.
And in North Carolina, that number is about 10,000 people.
Wow.
And in our county, that number is about 500 people. And the vast majority of these are folks that are episodically homeless. They're homeless for a short period of time. We have incredible resources: Salvation Army, Good Shepherd, First Fruit Ministries, an amazing network here in town, Family Promise, that people that pick folks up off the street and can rapidly rehouse folks that have some level of stability. But there is, so you take that big number, 500, about 2/3 of them are sheltered homeless. That means that they have a bed. Tonight they'll be in a bed.
That they can go to the Salvation Army or the St. Vincent de Paul or whatever and have a crisis bed for the night. But it's not a home. It's not that they can receive mail there or entertain a friend or...
Yeah, they will be somewhere where there is a bed. 1/3 of our local homeless population will be unsheltered, living in places not meant for human habitation. Places like tents, in their car. There may be 35 to 50 people in cars on a given night in Wilmington, parked up there at Walmart or Cracker Barrel. So that kind of group is called the unsheltered. What we're focused on, and in regard to kind of the healthcare side of it, is the chronically homeless. Now, those are defined very clearly by the government as folks that have been on the streets for over a year, and they have a physical or mental disability. So all of the folks we're addressing will have some type of disability with a disability income, $750 to $1,200 a month. But they have been living on the streets of Wilmington locally for over a year. We track those folks. We have now been working for several years, and believe me, our advocate partners know who these folks are. They are our friends. And so we track currently about 70 of them in a database. There are probably about 100 to 200 folks who are chronically homeless living in our area. It's not an unreasonable target to house initially. And so it's through, they kind of come in two flavors. I would say if you look at the hospital where I work, and I've worked there for 26 years, and so we've watched homeless folks come in and out, and it is just demoralizing to our staff in the emergency room who watch. There is one subset that just come in and use the emergency room as a shelter, a place to get a bed, a place to get a warm meal. You know, they'll say the same things to get admitted overnight, and our folks will care for them. But that's one
expensive.
group. It is very expensive. It costs about $2,100 a night when they get admitted. You know, it's about $1,200 just to walk in the door of the
That's more than
room.
a Trump room.
Oh, yeah. So that's the reality. They come in, they say, listen, I'm having chest pain. We're going to get you an EKG. We're going to watch your heart. We're going to draw blood samples. They can say, I'm going to kill myself. They might get several days of observation if that's going to happen.
And then
say,
the taxpayers have to pick that up because they're incapable. They don't have insurance or a job, so.
Yeah, I just think that there's this one subset of folks in there that are without medical problems that would require them. But then the other group that I think that we are really most moved to try to help are folks with real diseases. Now, if you look at our 70 folks, 80% of them have over 2 physical disorders going on: severe lung disease, severe heart disease, diabetes. Heck, I pulled the data on the hospital. One guy comes in 246 times in a 3-year period. That is largely without medical problems. We also have about a 25-year-old young lady who comes in. She's been admitted to our ICU at the hospital 43 times in a 3-year period. Why is she admitted? She has diabetes. Her blood sugar goes to 600. She has a seizure.
Wow.
We call the ambulance, man. We put her in the ICU. We put her on an insulin drip. We get her fixed, and then we send her out with a package to tell her how to take care of her diabetes with some insulin. Well, insulin needs to be refrigerated. So she doesn't take it. And in about a month, she'll come back in seizing again. So that's the demoralizing side. And so it's this combination of both of those folks. You have a wound? I mean, my gosh, we amputated some guy's leg the other day. He lives in a car. And I'm talking to him like, hey, where are you going? He goes, I'm going back to my car. Like, you can't drive your car anymore. Yeah, man, I know. So that's the healthcare side of it that is that really motivates us to get up and go every day. And that's a lot, I know.
Now, Kim, we've not been purposefully ignoring you through this, but I'm guessing your participation in this is going to be just as equal as you're a nurse.
Yep. And I am filling in the holes when Tom was working. And yes, definitely. The thing I'm really passionate about is what makes Eden Village so special. It's a community that comes around Eden Village. So people in the outside of Eden Village, it can be a doctor, it could be you, come, and each resident will have a home team. And that will be 4 to 6 people from our community that will promise to come in and just do life with them. They will have a meal with them once a month. They will sit on their front porch. They will not materially give them anything or do anything that they can do for themselves, but simply be there and be their friend. And so that's what part I'm really excited about and going to be helping a lot with.
Now, that C word does seem to be problematic in our modern time, and trying to get more conversation about community is it's a bit of a struggle. So when trying to develop a community around this group of people that has such a stigma to them has got to be an uphill battle.
Well, you would think, but we've had probably about 800 people go on our website and have offered to volunteer to be part of that home team. So we're really encouraged. We're getting ready now to start pulling those people out and putting them in little groups and starting to have them out there and talk with them and train them and start having that relationship with our potential residents.
Now, do these people know?
But you're right.
Go ahead.
I'll follow up on that, because I do think that it is a really important part, this personal relationship side of helping people. You see the guy on the side of the street holding a cardboard sign up. Man, all of us know that that's wrong. And our heart is tugged. We have this compassionate feeling that we want to do something to help them. If you just hand that person money, about 80% of the time it will be used in a way that you probably wouldn't want it to do. Want it to be done. So what you do instead, and there's a poverty historian, this guy named Marvin Olasky. He writes this book called The Tragedy of American Compassion. And he basically looks historically at America, the greatest, most charitable nation on earth. And he looks through and he says, okay, what are the keys to the best charities? And one of the keys that he puts in is personal relationships. You have to know the name and the story of the person you're helping. You don't just get to write a check. You don't just get to hand them $20 and walk off. The reality is the best way to help people is to sit there and, just like you come up to me on the street and say, hey, and I say, hey, TK, I need some money. And you say, Tom, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. And then you can make a decision. Everybody should be super generous, give like crazy, but know the name and the story of the person that you're helping. So stop and talk to those folks, figure out what their real needs are. And so that's the individual personal relationship side of what Kim's talking about with the home teams. It's just a critical component. And Marvin Olasky, professor in Austin, Texas, and a guy that we've connected on this project with, it's just one of the keys to successful charities. You take Habitat. Habitat builds houses, right? They bring people in, and you get to know the person you're hammering, you're building their house with them. You actually get to know who that is. And so a personal relationship side is critical.
Do the people that are on this watch list know that they're potential candidates for this? Or is it going to be a surprise? Is it like you just pick the guy up and say, hey, welcome to your new home?
So finding residents is really a very important part. And again, we're following the system that has been in place now. I mean, Texas started in 2004. These guys in Missouri started 2016. We're not making any of this up. So there's an 18-page application. We have plenty of people. We've had over 350 people apply. When this went out on the news, but from all over the place. But we've narrowed it down to about 70 that we actually are following right now. And, maybe that number is 150. We don't know. How do you find out these numbers? I can just tell you everything is our best guess. We don't know. And I think it is really hard to figure that out. And again, the vast majority of people are homeless only for a short period of time. But anyway, so we are an applicant will come down to the Harrelson Center on a Tuesday morning, where we have an office there. They'll meet with our volunteer social workers and fill out an 18-page application. They'll go meet some of the people that they're living around. They'll go see where they're actually living, and go through some of the basic idea of, hey, we want you in a sense of community. What can you offer to the community? And all of a sudden they start going, wow, well, we got two guys out there right now that are working in our garden, Wayne and James. Stop by, 1302 Carnegie. Go pick up some food. You can just, it is open to the public. You can go and talk to these guys, and they have a purpose, and they're out there working every day tilling that garden and growing food. And so you watch this concept of dignity and of work and of the opportunity that this pulls people out. But all this basics is comes out of Marvin Olasky's work, and that's kind of the fundamentals of both Community First and Eden Village in Missouri, and now Eden Village in North Carolina. I will say there are about 10 other cities right now currently that are in the process of building Eden Villages. The key is 20 to 30 homes in a gated community. You get the land, you put one of these small homes on so people can see what you're doing, and then you start bringing donors in and you raise the money to get it done. And so we hope that anybody wants to come out there and visit. Just stop by, go look at the construction. We build these houses in Laurinburg, North Carolina. They're brought down on a trailer. They're lifted with a crane and put on a cinder block foundation. So they're full modular homes rated for hurricanes. They're homes just like yours and mine. And we just stop in there and see us. We got one employee. So we have an annual operating budget of about $120,000. And we have one employee that is there. His name is Sean. He's a crisis management guy. He is amazing. So Sean Hayes is the heart and soul on the ground, relationships with all those folks. He's helping manage all those other all the folks, and will manage the property. Is watching over the construction right now.
And that's direct care. I mean, that's somebody boots on the ground, working on both sides, helping the village as well as the people. That's a big set of shoes right there.
Man, Sean is great. Just sit down and talk with him. He's got a heart of gold. He is a big, intimidating looking guy who is like a teddy bear. And him and his wife, Joanne, have 10 daughters, if you could believe it. Biologic daughters.
That's like your own WNBA team.
This guy can manage a crisis. And,
apparently.
He worked at the Yahweh Center before. He is in partnership with Donna Evans, who is our social worker, and together they just make things roll, right? They just make it roll. So anyway, honored to come on here and talk with you about that. Really appreciate the time with you.
Well, I've got a couple more questions if you don't mind.
Fire away.
One of them has been a concern of mine for all of these places, because again, my interest in tiny homes was because I don't need a lot of space. I have a lot of equipment that I use for rock and roll, but I don't keep that in my house. I cannot sleep on a bass cabinet. Just, guitar cabinets are not comfortable. So I don't need the space myself. I started exploring this, ran across some tiny homes in the Low-Income Housing Institute of Seattle, Washington, and these other places that are using these tiny homes to graduate people from where they are now into a sense of stability, and then on from there with some sense of incentive to want them to graduate rather than just having free rent at a home. My concern or question would be, if we Wilmington, this whole area, New Hanover County being surrounded by this beautiful beach or bordered, it's almost like we're opening up a sign saying, move to beautiful North Carolina rent-free. Is there a concern that other homeless from Oklahoma and, these landlocked places are going to come here and think they have a lifelong vacation at Eden Village? I mean, my God, I'm just going to pick an apple and sit right here and play with the snakes.
I think it's a great question, a question we get regularly. And I think the answer is for the people in Oklahoma to solve the problems of the people in Oklahoma, and the people in Wilmington, North Carolina, to work on the issues of Wilmington, North Carolina. And so the process, again, is of our group, the average time they've been living on the streets of Wilmington is 7 years.
Oh,
so
man, that's like common law marriage.
Their average age is 55. We got about 77% of the folks on our list are male. 73% of them are African American. We score them in regard to their health. They come into a place like Eden Village, and let's build Eden Villages all across the nation so that everybody can solve their own local problems. So we need to be really cautious and thoughtful about how we do that.
Good point. And another question, sorry.
In regard to the graduation process,
yeah,
this is a permanent solution. This is not temporary housing. The model of Eden Village is you come into this place and you will live forever. And so think about this. The average life expectancy of a person who's been on the street 2 years is 55. Our average age coming into Eden Villages are between 55 and 57. So they are there. They had 4 people die already this year in Eden Villages. So it is a dignified way to live the remaining portion of your life. So many of them have liver disease. You just come and talk to them, and you know, you'll just figure out very quickly that they just need basic health care in order to have a dignified way of living out the remaining years of their lives. On each Eden Village, there's a columbarium, so their ashes can be preserved, and they will forever have a home and a community. So there's been one guy out of 55 in Missouri that has gone on and moved out to go and manage a different Eden Village.
Okay.
But this is a sense of lifelong community. And if we build these pockets of residential neighbors, then all of a sudden you watch about half of them will be able to work and maintain their disability. So you can work 20 hours a week and still maintain your disability income. And so they're encouraged to do that. The other thing is that everybody can have a job at Eden Village where you work for community credit. They mow each other's lawns, they get community credit, and with that credit, they can buy things at their on-site store, a community store that is donation-based, where they can pick up food staples and food and cleaning supplies. So they should never have to leave the village.
Oh, wow.
But I'll send you a documentary. There's a documentary that the Springfield guys did, and you can just get a glimpse of this.
Now I have one. Oh, sorry, Kim. Go ahead.
And all of our residents, they will pay $300 a month.
Oh, so it's not a free ride.
No, that is fixed for life. That will include their utilities. There's also 24-hour laundry in our community center, and that will be part of the rent. But all of our residents will be expected to pay $300, and that will come from their disability. They'll come down at the beginning of the month, pay their rent, and then we promise not to increase their rent ever.
Yeah. So there's 3 things that are required to stay at Eden Village. Number 1, pay your rent, $300 a month. It's due at the first of the month. No deposit. It includes your utilities. It's fixed for life. There's a German town called Figueres. They have fixed their income, their rent for over 500 years in this village that they did there.
Wow.
So that works. The number 2 rule is that you have to obey civil law. You agree to live in a crime and drug-free fashion, just like I do. Everybody agrees to obey civil law. And then the third thing is you follow the rules of a gated community for which they get to make the rules. Oh. And so these rules have been established in Missouri. It works very well. They actually make tougher rules than you and I would make. You can't have a gun on the property. You can't smoke in the community center. You can't drink or be drunk outside of your home. You can have a guest, but they have to register. Everybody, again, comes through that front gate. So anyway, that's kind of the process. But yeah, Kim's exactly right. Everybody pays a fixed amount. Think about the incentive on that is. The incentive on that is to go and achieve more. Budget. You're going to pay that fixed rent. That's our promise to you.
Now, it seems that besides the rent, there's also a community requirement to be part of the community. You can't just live like a little hermit all by yourself and ignore the world. You're still part of the village.
Well, man, that's what our social workers are working very hard to find the people that are motivated to be involved in that. Like Wayne and James work in the garden right now today. We got, folks that are that want to be involved in cleaning things up. We got painters. We got people who are maintenance folks. I tell you, we are all much closer to homelessness than we would like to think. And so if we just give them a place where they can stably live.
We're one hospital visit away, many of us.
One hospital bill away.
Yeah, that's one ambulance and that's it. I'll be. Can you send me an application?
Man, you got to be living on the street for over a year. Our social workers will figure that out quick.
Now, on the other side of it, as much as people want to help, and sometimes it's misguided, and I want to make sure that I'm not errant in my opinion of this. But again, you've heard me lament my gauntlet run every morning when I work downtown in front of the library. On some on some mornings I would see a van pull up and hand out a bunch of styrofoam containers with food, and then these folks would eat like maybe one or two of the items that were in it and just toss the rest to the side. They don't seem to have any sense of accountability. So we ended up that afternoon with, 30 of these styrofoam trays with random amounts of food on it blowing around downtown, coffee cups everywhere, and the place is completely trashed. How does that type of, I understand they're doing it from a good heart that they want to feed these people, but it doesn't seem like they're thinking it through. They're just throwing food at the bear. This is why you don't feed the bears at the zoo. Is this the same type of thing?
I'll go back to Marvin Olasky's ideas. He calls it CPR, and that is the characteristics of the best charities. C is challenge the recipient.
I can see.
So
yeah.
once you get them stable, you think of a two-way exchange. No more one-way gifts. It's a bargain, not a gift. Take the kid you want to give a bike to for Christmas. We all want the kid to have a bike for Christmas. We do the angel tree thing, and listen, the Daltons do the angel tree thing. We feel really good about it. But at the end of the day, when you give that kid the bike, it disrupts their family structure. The father feels like he has not been able to provide. There will be some words that go back and forth in regard to, hey, those people had to help us. And it's not a dignified approach. It's just not. So you look for a bargain. When you want to get the kid a bike, you say, hey, to the parents, come in here and work for 8 hours, and you can buy the bike for $5. We all want the kid to have the bike, but now the parents give the kid the bike. And so that's the concept of challenge from Marvin Olasky's work. And so, if you want to give people food, that's great. Come out there and work the garden. Come out there and manage things. We, as the stewards of opportunity, are in that position to say, hey, here's the hand, here's how we organize things. You guys can manage your own food co-op right there at Eden Village. So that is kind of our view of that. It all balances back. So CPR, challenge the recipient. P is the personal relationship we talked about with the home teams. And then R is religion. So you sit there and you go, okay, there's a bunch of religious people out there at Eden Village. Listen, I don't care who your God is. We want everybody coming out there and helping. We want everybody coming out there and living. There's no religious requirement of it. But our spiritual community has really rallied around this. 7 of our local churches have put up money to sponsor homes.
And these are different churches. They're not all of the same family. Like they're all part of the convention of this particular denomination. It's, all over the map.
Listen, and they have been out there. We had 70 people from the Rock Church out there working in the garden the other day. And then we've had big civic groups. I mean, there were 65 people from PPD, the former PPD, that were out there in red shirts. They painted all the wall. We've had a big group called F3 out there. They built our giant fence in about 2 hours, 100 guys working. Yeah, it's like watching a barn get built.
Yeah.
I mean, it is amazing stuff. So anyway, that's kind of the Olasky thing, CPR, and so that's our view in regard. So you take the downtown feeding programs. Listen, we don't want anybody starving, but rather than handing food out, we would believe that you should work toward kind of the food co-op system, but you got to get people in stable areas. So ultimately, and we sit, I just talked to the mayor on Saturday about, hey, let's have an organized plan. We really need an organized plan. I think it is working toward that direction where we can get everybody into a stable spot to stay so that we're not just handing stuff out on the streets like that. There is a time to hand out in the middle of a crisis. The hurricane hits and everybody's on the streets. Man, give water, food, clothing, do whatever you can do. But once the hurricane is gone and you get people back up into the rehabilitation side of things, like there's still groups handing out water bottles in New Orleans following Katrina, right? I think we should be past that by now. So anyway, so I just look to people who have thought through this. There's a great science in regard to poverty care, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm not telling you we have the only way, but Eden Village is built around this concept of CPR.
Now, the Eden Village project does seem like an enormous expenditure of energy.
Well, listen, so Kim and I worked in Africa. We've done these short-term mission trips in Brazil and the Dominican Republic. We have seen poverty up close and personal. But we get our personal motivation from our friends that have built a school in remote Kenya where they take care of 800 kids. You know, they've raised 100 kids. An orthopedic surgeon and his wife's a math teacher, man. We met him in 2008. They talk about energy. But once you start giving, once you start getting involved in this, oh my gosh, there is nothing better. There is a source of energy that is amazing when you watch somebody really change a life like this. So we're in it for the long haul. Like I said, we've been in Wilmington 26 years. We're never leaving, and we're going to push forward with the next Eden Village. But we need a good plan. We need a plan for a car ministry. We need a plan for kind of in Missouri, they do a 6-foot teardrop trailer ministry that really works for alternatives to the shelter. If you don't want to go into a shelter, you could climb into one of these trailers and just lock the door behind you for a night for $10 a night. We envision bringing all these things down and matching the services with that. So listen, we're in it for the long haul.
Now we have had a tremendous amount of people just around Wilmington that have come on board and have been helping us tirelessly. They all share their talents with us, and Tom is really good about saying, hey, you go do that. That's a great idea, and come back. So we really have had so many people come alongside us and really help us with all this and the project.
Man, that's a great
Super
point.
appreciative.
Thomas Construction is out there. They're a huge construction company. They're actually overseeing our whole project. Man, mainly, I've seen one bill from them. They got this guy from downtown, Coastal Land Design, named Jeff Petroff. He did the entire land plan, didn't charge us a penny. You got a guy like Keith Miller from Future Homes that did our modular plan. We have a lawyer that has never sent me a bill. His name's Dixon McLean, and Jeff Porter. I mean, all these folks, LS3P, Charles Boney and his team have done all the architectural work for our community center. So we have just a series of pro bono folks. Wes Quarter Thompson took down 2 buildings, didn't charge us at all, 800 tons that the county let us dump.
Wow.
We're talking about thousands of people that have come together and that are supportive of this. We've had little kids do sell shells that they painted and have done lemonade stands, and then they come and they bring us their bag of change. We have had a group that did Christmas trees, little individual places. Del Webb did a fundraiser. They raised enough money to fund an entire house. River Lights has done fundraisers for us. So this is just and we started this right when COVID hit, March 2020.
When nobody could talk to nobody face to face.
Man, we have raised over $4 million.
Well, see, that's where 3D printing comes in. You could do that by remote. Just hit start. You could be in Chicago and build houses in Wilmington. That's pretty wicked.
You get one dude in skinny jeans and an iPad, and he can build a house.
That's. But the thing is, with this much energy, isn't it just easier to bulldoze them all and arrest them like they did in Los Angeles a couple months ago?
Man, no way.
No.
We are so far from that. I think they have 86,000 homeless folks sitting around in that area. That is a whole different ballgame.
With nearly $1 billion budget just for this problem, for this issue.
Poverty cannot be solved just with money. We just could give everybody money, but then we still would have the impoverished. It is about challenging the recipient, personal relationships, coming alongside people, and an individual solution for an individual person. That's what Eden Village is about. That's the message.
Wow, and that's so counter to the way the government looks at it, as this is a homeless situation with so many hundreds of people, and we throw money at this target like we do the war on drugs and we did on everything else, and certainly on the educational front that's happening now. I mean, that's got to be brutal.
But our local government has stepped up, and stepped up big. The county gave us $250,000, helped us with some of the infrastructure costs. The city sold Optimus Park and gave us the proceeds of that, another $250,000 toward water and sewer. So I think you can have this private public partnership where we can fund houses. Individual groups have sponsored each home for $40,000. But then we needed the government to step in and, to get land and infrastructure, and then bring the private group in to manage each one of the buildings individually. That partnership is huge. And then the sale of New Hanover Hospital and the New Hanover County Endowment will plug in about $50 million annually for the citizens of New Hanover County. And I heard your guest earlier talk about outside counties, and we absolutely agree that ultimately that will need to be, it will spill over into services of other adjacent counties. But at the end of the day, I think that our political group here in Wilmington has their head on straight, and really, I think, has a good grasp of things. Most of them have been out on our property and sat in the tiny home with us, and have met some of our future residents. The mayor of Wilmington, he funded an entire house, all the furniture of one house. So,
wow.
Those guys have really stepped up, and I think that we have a very good relationship with them. I think that there's a huge opportunity for the future, and we can dot Eden villages throughout the area until we at least help the chronically homeless, and then we plug in systems where the folks that are episodically homeless, and we get them, people that are stable enough, if you have a family, that we can get you in some type of living environment, pick them back up.
That's inspiring. I mean, in what we see otherwise in the planet right now, I mean, from Europe to downtown, there's just not all kinds of good. That it almost seems like what you guys are doing is in the minority.
Listen, if you want to have something good, you want to see something good right here in Wilmington, you go to 1302 Cornegay, you drive by. We had 5 houses delivered last week. Each house is built in about a 3-week period in a big factory, and they'll roll down here for a month. We should be done with the homes in the place there by the end of the year, but we need help funding the community center. And so we'll continue to push through. I mean, like I said, we'll keep filling the gaps. Kim and I will make sure that every aspect of this thing is done. And then we plan our next one, and we have a good strategy of a combined effort from our local government and our civic partners, corporate partners, and individual donors. Heck, we've had over 1,500 individual donors send us over $1. Between $1 and we've had one incredibly generous family do a matching gift of $1.25 million.
Whoa.
So, right.
Wow.
Local family, right? Local family seeing local solutions to local problems.
And that's the idea of extending your table rather than building a taller fence.
Right.
Listen, I think we have incredible folks with huge hearts around this town. This is Wilmington, North Carolina. It's our home. And I think when you see people on the streets like that, reach out in a personal way and try to help them individually. All of us together can do this. We are convinced of that. We're just honored to be part of it. We are a very small part of it, just dealing with the chronically homeless and the healthcare side of it. It's just, it's a very, very small part of it.
Man, but it's a very big project, because it may not change the world, but it's going to change a lot of people's worlds.
Like, man, we got on the Kelly Clarkson show, and there were places all over that have wanted, looked into it, and cities that really understand. There's about 120 small home villages throughout the United States right now. And, there's an amazing one in Hawaii that they did right in Honolulu that has a place for women and children in little duplexes. we're not trying to figure out something. This is not a new solution.
Right, you're not reinventing the wheel.
No way. This is just a very good solution for our local challenges. So I'm with you on the people in the library. Stop in there next time and sit down and talk to one of them and see what they need individually, rather than looking at kind of the whole big mess of things. Talk through the whole concept of, hey, this is their city too, and we got to figure out how to work along with them. They're amazing people. There's some guy down there, Glenn, that can play the saxophone. He's just incredible. There's an incredible vocalist there. We used to be in a big band. Like his group played Wembley Stadium. He was on Wembley Stadium with like 100,000 people. He's down there singing on the street corners of Wilmington. So, these folks are amazing. They have incredible talent. They just need a hand up.
But they're just summarily dismissed because of where they are and what they look like and their situation. Currently, not permanently, just a current situation. It's like seeing somebody with a cast on their leg. You may not be able to, you may be able to outrun them now, but that's not a permanent situation, right? There's going to be a support system, or the idea is that there's going to be a support system, a community that helps them grow, I guess would be the term, because in a lot of places, or a lot of times, it seems that the story has some sort of break in it that causes them to lose faith in themselves and lose their sense of identity and community for themselves and end up sleeping in a bush, in front of a building.
Yeah, man.
Turning that around has got to be part of a challenge that not just the caseworkers, but just everybody there trying to help them understand their own dignity.
Well, don't get me wrong. We will fail. There will be some hard times. This is not a perfect solution, but we're going to be in there slugging it out. We're down on the ground and doing what we can to try to help as many people as we can. And this has been the greatest journey that Kim and I have ever undertaken together.
Even after going to Brazil and Africa and around the world, it's still right here at home.
Well, ultimately, we see an opportunity to build small home villages in Kenya, and that will be part of where we ultimately expand. So we could put that 3D printer and build a group of 20 homes gated with a little garden inside it right there in rural Kenya. They did one in rural Mexico. I think it's a great solution for community housing throughout the world. If we can build with cheaper materials, there's a really cool company called Boxable that Elon Musk is involved in. He actually lives in one of these things. It's 400 square feet. It can be shipped anywhere in the world for about $48,000. Get online and check out Boxable. There's fantastic solutions out there. We can put little communities around, but the key is 20 to 30 homes together, gated community, and a general building, the community center, where they can all come together and have a shared life. And now we're trying to build the right folks in the right place with the right support to do that.
And it seems like you have the right philosophy behind it to build that team. And that's, man, and for people to get involved in that, give us a little bit more on the contact information and different ways that they can be involved.
Yeah, so you can get on EdenVillageWilmington.org. You can hit the volunteer button and then type in whatever your talents are, whatever you're interested in doing. And as Kim said, I am really good at saying, hey, you want to do this? Go do it. And so so that's what you can do to sign up. We have a database that we manage. Donations, it's a 501c3. We'll send you a donation receipt, and we have all of that set up. We have an incredible financial team that sits in behind us, that watches every dollar. We've put our 990s online for people to see. So all that is being tracked, and we have an amazing data system that one of our guys built. He's got a master's in public health, and he got a grant through Salesforce, and then worked with our local banking company called Encino here to build a HIPAA-compliant tracking system. So get online, hit volunteer. We'll put you into a team. We'll have a team leader that gets you involved. We would love to see anybody just drop by, walk through the model home so you can see what's going on, see what dignity looks like, and see just an exciting project that's happening right here in Wilmington, North Carolina.
And that's why we have you guys on the show, because these are the changes that are going to make our community better, I think, more so than any of the other things we do to attract tourism, is if we can clean up the entire community at the base level so that nobody is actively struggling in this manner to make it difficult for other people to enjoy. The experience I had was a tourist being stopped by one of these unfortunate people and asking them for $1, and it's like, wait a minute, they're here to spend money to help our community and are here as tourists. They're here to see the boat. They're here to see the river. They're not here to be accosted for loose cigarettes or pocket change or whatever else. So this seems to be a solution not just for them, but for the entire community overall. So this partnership has to happen.
Yeah, man, our tagline is make Wilmington a city where no one sleeps outside. We absolutely believe it is possible. We're going to focus on the chronically homeless. We're going to build this first village, 31 tiny homes. We'll then go build the second one, and then however many more we got to do until we get a handle on the chronically homeless, and we get really great at managing episodic homelessness using our public-private relationships. So we love it. I think, again, doctor and a nurse, this is about providing health care through just basic needs and housing.
Man, I can't thank you guys enough for the time. This hour has flown by. I'm sorry I do have to end it. Dr. Dalton and Kim, thank you so much for your time and information and for doing this. I mean, this is not something everybody wakes up in the morning thinking, hey, I'm going to revolutionize homelessness in Wilmington.
Yeah, listen, it's been just a great honor. Like I said, we have amazing partners. Go out there and meet Sean, drop by. This is just a humbling journey for us. That's what we do every day now. So anyway, thanks for the platform to get on, and hopefully someone will hear this. Tell your friends, EdenVillageWilmington.org, and get involved and help us. Thank you.
And we're going to be paying attention. Yeah, any updates, any changes that we hear of, we're definitely going to get you back on the show, because this is definitely, it's a little bit more than just a story.
Well, on Wednesday, we got our crane in putting 4 of our houses on the foundation. That's always fun to watch. If anybody wants to go out there, they're welcome to join us.
Oh, pictures or it didn't happen? You send me pictures and I'll show them. How's that?
Okay, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. And thank you again to Dr. Dalton and Kim for your time this morning and helping us get a grip, a handle, and understanding on homelessness in Wilmington, North Carolina, and how we can improve it. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you tomorrow right here on the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, on the Big Talker. Please visit the website, bigtalker.live. Download the app for the Android and iOS devices. It will blow your mind. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you tomorrow. Take care.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. A nonprofit will honor 8 local veterans today with the second part of Our Fallen Heroes ceremony in Wilmington.